Good afternoon and welcome to the Develop Croydon Investor Tour. This tour is brought to you by Develop Croydon, a community interest company with over 70 members, developers, investors, occupiers and the like, who work together to promote Croydon as a place to live, work, invest and visit. You can see the breadth and weight of the partnership from the logos that will appear on the screen momentarily. These are our current full members and our associate members will appear in a moment. On our investor tours, we traditionally host a delicious breakfast in Box Park and then take delegates on a private tram ride around the town centre, a coach tour of the commercial core and the Purley Way, and a short walk around the town centre with various stops hosted by partners. However, in the virtual world, we've been working with a locally based company, Heads Above the Clouds, to create a full 3D virtual tour, which you can also navigate without this commentary. Obviously, this is better. At your leisure on the Develop Croydon website, and we can send around a link to everybody afterwards if they'd like to have a look following the tour. As we progress around the town centre, if you have any questions, please write them in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll endeavour to cover the answers during the speech. However, we will be going at amazingly quick pace around Croydon, much like in the real events, so please feel free to get in touch afterwards for any further details from any of the speakers or any of our other partners. So now to welcome you to the tour officially, I'd like to hand over to Richard Plant, who's Chair of Develop Croydon and a partner at SHW. Over to you, Richard.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 19th investor tour that we've run in Croydon. As usual, the sun's shining on Croydon and even in this virtual tour, we aim to show you around our town. Now, as Bonnie mentioned, Develop Croydon is a private sector partnership that was founded in April 2011, so is now 10 years old, or we're in our 11th year. The 8 founding members were Berkeley Homes, Barratt Homes, Guildhouse Rose Pride, Mentor, SHW, Sinclair Clark and Stanhope and Schroders. It was in response to a need to promote regeneration in Croydon. All the members are either based in Croydon or have projects in Croydon and saw the need to change the perceptions of the town and encourage investment in it. And collectively, we promote Croydon as a location to invest, work and live. And we have the common goal of trying to secure more regeneration and economic renewal for Croydon. Personally, I've lived and worked in Croydon for 25 years. Most people think Develop Croydon is actually my job, but it isn't. I'm a partner at SHW and my job is buying, selling, planning, valuing development sites anywhere in the southeast, but recently concentrating on Croydon because so much is going on. Now, given the impressive developments that are appearing throughout Croydon, and if you were here in reality, you would see numerous cranes, lots of sites and construction going on. The number of deals that are being completed, the huge investment pipeline that's transforming the town. It's easy to forget where we were 10 years ago, before the Olympics, just coming out of the last recession. Now together, we've promoted regeneration in the borough, and Croydon is a grand place to live, work and invest. And it's always been a place of grand plans, right from the 60s when the flyovers and the underpasses were put in and town planning, if you like, was just coming into its own, right through to now where we've had the East Croydon Master Plan, West Croydon Master Plan, and all of the other master plans that all link together and are now becoming reality at an increasingly surprising rate. Swathes of new homes are being delivered in the town centre, and even in the town centre. I cycled round recently, just counting the units on the different sites, and I put down that we've got 2,600, or just over 2,600 units on site. And then I noticed that Tide had started their next one, which is, I think, is just over 900 units. So it's actually a lot more. There's some truly impressive schemes under construction. I just mentioned Tide, which is currently the world's tallest modular building. And they're just about to start one that's going to be even taller, or they have started one that's taller. We've got 2 brand new Grade A office developments that have been delivered and are fully occupied. The next pre-let office development is underway on Ruskin Square. Croydon Council and the GLA have played their part in enabling great public realm improvements, such as the ongoing facelift being given to the public realm from Southend to George Street and Church Street. Substantial transport infrastructure improvements are planned at East Croydon, and indeed Network Rail have bought the old post office building to facilitate that. West Croydon as well has been massively improved, and is one of the only places in South London where the heavy rail, tram, tube and bus all come together in one place. There's loads more to come as well. For example, the East Croydon station plans are in consultation at the moment, but we've also got the imminent arrival of London South Bank University, one of my commercial agency team's top deals of this Corona-19 period. And today, it's about challenging any preconceptions, any negative preconceptions you may have about Croydon, and about demonstrating that it has massively changed for the better. But even better is still to come. There's still opportunities waiting for the right parties. Leon 2, 357 units, has a resolution at the moment. You've got brick by brick schemes at College Green, you've got the Croydon College Annex. So there's still possibilities there, there's still sites to be discovered. Now, just back to the logistics of this morning. Your main guides this morning will be Bonnie, myself, alongside Vanessa Clark, and in addition, and Alex Gale, dealing with the Pearly Way. But we will also, just as we do with our real life investor tours, we will be joined by a number of key stakeholders along the way to tell us about their particular schemes. And these speakers will be, initially, Councillor Ali, leader of the London Borough of Croydon, Heather Cheeseborough, London Borough of Croydon Planning, John Edmondson, Associate Director, and Phil Brown, Regional Director of ACOM, Darren Nathan, Partnership Director, London Square, and Richard Fenn, who's going to give us an update from London South Bank University. So, pretty much bang on time. I am hoping we can now hand over to Councillor Ali to give us an update from the London Borough of Croydon's perspective.
I think Councillor Ali is going to swap with Heather, and she's just coming in shortly. So maybe if we
okay, we will hand over to Heather Cheeseborough to give us an update from the London Borough of Croydon planning, etc.
Thank you very much, Richard. Delighted to talk about Croydon, my very, very favourite borough. Very passionate about Croydon, and yeah, to build on what Richard has been saying, it's been a really busy year, and I've been in and out of the centre of Croydon over the past year, and it's unbelievable the amount of cranes and activity that is underway at the moment. And it's really satisfying when you see applications or pre-apps that come in from developers starting off as some bare bones of schemes, perhaps some unrealistic aspirations, but equally some really exciting aspirations. And then you work with a developer, and the planning department at Croydon really pride themselves upon working in partnership with developers to jointly refine proposals and to ensure that applications come in that are realistic and deliverable, and that will get built out. And we're now seeing the fruits of that work over the past 5, 6 years, with so many cranes on horizon. So talking about where we've been as a planning team, I mean, it's been a tough year, one would say, quite easily. I think it's been a tough year for the whole country, but it's been particularly tough in Croydon for a variety of reasons. A number of planning teams, I mean, an awful lot of planning teams throughout the country have experienced huge upswings in applications, which was a bit contrary to perhaps what people thought. We've had huge upswings, mainly in householders, whilst there's been a sort of a lessening from the big developers, and that's understandable, bearing in mind that nobody really knew what was happening with the pandemic. So we've had lots of householders where people wanted to extend their houses to or increase bedrooms and office space. But what's been really satisfying is throughout the pandemic, we've also had a lot of pre-apps continuing to come in. And increasingly bigger developers have been talking to us about pre-apps throughout the year, and we're starting to get some bigger applications in as well. We've been busy as a planning team also in terms of going virtual. You know, throughout the country, everybody's had to work in a remote way, and virtual planning committees have actually been surprisingly successful. And I think one of the real plus things is about the way that people really do engage. It has opened it up to a larger amount of people. There are undoubtedly challenges working with virtual planning committees, but I think it has largely been a success. So in terms of particular things the planning team have been working on during the past year, we've been taking forward the Purley Way Master Plan. And this is something that we're really pleased with in terms of the level of interest and engagement we've had from the public and from developers. And even though we are yet to adopt it, it won't be until 2022-23 in tandem with the local plan when we adopt the master plan. What the master plan has done to date it's acted as a catalyst to developers within the Purley Way area in terms of bringing forward pre-apps in not just residential but commercial mixed use development and proposals. So it's been really successful to start to get developer interest in that area there. We've also been working on our local plan. We've got a reviewed local plan, and again, we are anticipating the adoption of that 2022-2023. We've got an increased housing target from around about 1,600 PA. Now we've gone up to 2,079 in the new London plan, and so our new local plan will respond to that increased housing target, which also includes a target of 641 for smaller sites. So very much being proactive in terms of going forward and positively encouraging development in the borough. Other things we've been doing is we continue to work in the town centre with our partners there and our stakeholders. Obviously, town centres and high streets have really suffered under the lockdowns and the pandemics, and I think there's a belief that what has happened, that it has been a sort of acceleration of what were trends in terms of retail before the pandemic. It's just basically accelerated those. So town centres are suffering throughout the UK. In Croydon, we've got strong partners with Croydon Limited Partnership, and we've put together a town centre board with a number of key stakeholders, including CLP, the Whitgift Foundation, R&F Properties, London South Bank University, to ensure that we bring stakeholders together, and the bid, of course, to really get the vision for the town centre and to work hard in the aftermath of the pandemic to ensure that we've got vibrancy within the town centre, and we put ourselves into the best possible position for regeneration going forward. So we continue to work with those key stakeholders in the town centre, and there's a whole lot of work around what kind of uses are the right kind of uses. Obviously, retail is going to be a lesser consideration, still an important consideration in the town centre, but a lot of other uses, and key to that is London South Bank, which has been a fabulous newcomer to Croydon. And I was just walking around their refurbishment of Electric House a couple of weeks ago, and it is the most amazing building. It is just huge positive for Croydon. That will be such a resource, and the spin-offs from London South Bank will be unbelievable. So really excited about them opening in September. Other things the council have been doing, we've got a cabinet approval to seek best consideration on a couple of really important sites, which is the College Green site and also the Croydon Park Hotel site. So we've been busy procuring real estate advisors, which concluded end of last week. And they're two sites that will be going to the market for best consideration. So a lot of really big interest that's already been expressed by developers in those sites. And it will be an exciting time to going forward over the next few months in bringing those forward. So from Croydon Planning Department point of view, we're busy, we're open for business. And as ever, we're always emphasising quality, great design, and wanting to work in partnership with developers. So thank you, Richard.
Thanks very much, Heather. Thanks a lot. The best news this year was that you were staying in Croydon and not going anywhere else.
Thank you very much, Richard. Absolutely excited to be staying in Croydon. I couldn't leave.
Good. Right, Bonnie, do we have Councillor Ali now?
We do indeed, yes.
Great.
Hi, Richard, and hi everyone. I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting. I was just really struggling to join you, but really good to be here, and thanks to Develop Croydon for organising this virtual tour of the borough. Great to see all the businesses and developers who are so active being part of today. And as council leader, obviously very honoured to be able to speak to you, to represent and advocate our borough to you. And I'm sorry only to be late. And you'll have already heard from Heather about the range of things that are going on in Croydon and the excitement that there has been. But I think it's fair to say that Croydon has always presented real opportunities, I think, to anyone looking to invest in our borough, particularly given our connectivity to London, our affordable office space and housing, particularly in comparison to other parts of London. But I think following COVID and the shifts that we're already starting to see in business working practices and people's own priorities and aspirations for their own work-life balance, I think Croydon becomes even more attractive. We're in a great location into London as well as down to the coast, and with real space in our borough. Good affordable housing and flexible workspace, and a really green borough with over 120 parks and open spaces, good leisure facilities, and a great mix of restaurants, cafes, bars and pubs, which more and more people in our communities will be able to enjoy over the coming weeks and months than has been possible, of course, in the last year. I think we have really advocated for inclusive growth in Croydon, really reflecting the great diversity of our communities, growth which offers benefits for all our communities, and with a real focus on the quality of life in our neighbourhoods. Particularly in the wake of the pandemic, we've put a real focus on promoting walking and cycling, and continued focus on our district centres, where we've seen a real increase in footfall in the last year. Lots of projects going on in lots of those district centres, whether that's South Norwood or Thornton Heath or Purley or Kenley, and there's real community involvement and energy behind those. We have a really strong cultural and creative scene in Croydon that has been a real linchpin for us in our approach to regeneration in the borough, culminating, of course, in being awarded the London Borough of Culture for 2023, an award that we are really proud of, and which I think now marks a real milestone in our recovery. It will be a moment to really celebrate Croydon and an opportunity to showcase who we are to the rest of London. The council is on its own recovery journey, which is progressing steadily, and as you'll have heard from Heather, ourselves as an administration and all of you are supported by great teams in our planning and economic development departments who have a great track record in supporting your capacity to develop projects in our borough and to support our very vibrant and diverse business sector, but particularly in the challenges of the last year. And finally, I think partnership is a real strength in Croydon. We enjoy really strong partnerships and relationships with our partners across the private, public and voluntary sectors, which we really value. We can see that in our work with the GLA to be the South London Growth Hub, supporting businesses across this part of London, work to develop a real knowledge sector with partner universities, including London South Bank University, our newest university partner, And we've also seen that in how our communities have really come together and pulled together during the last year. Community groups working with and supporting public services in that vital response to the pandemic, bolstered by hundreds of volunteers, really reflecting the strength of spirit which flourishes across our communities. And I think that speaks not just to the strength of the infrastructure in Croydon, which offers so much, but to the strength, resilience and the character of our communities here in Croydon. So just really wish you a really successful morning, and apologies again for not joining you right at the start. Thank you, Richard.
Super. No, thanks very much. Thanks very much, Councillor Ali. So I think now we're going to actually begin the proper tour, if you like, and move around. So as we come out of the Box Park to start the tour, just a few words about East Croydon Station, which, you know, obviously one of the best things about Croydon is its location on the edge of London. 15 minutes bicycle ride gets you into country lanes and the green countryside. 15 minutes on the train gets you into central London. So
needs BT Open World.
I'll just pick up while Richard's frozen, so hopefully he'll be back in a second. So yeah, just going on what Richard was saying. Are you back with us, Richard?
I'm still here. I was going to say 14 services an hour to Gatwick, overground service from West Croydon, direct road links into London and the M25, public transport links via rail, bus, and uniquely trams. And increasingly, I mentioned cycling into the countryside in 15 minutes, but there's new cycle routes all around the town centre that have appeared during the lockdown period. So on to the sites. So this picture before you is the Pocket Living Addiscombe Grove scheme. This is Pocket's first development in Croydon, and it's nearing completion. It's 100% affordable residential. It's 21 stories high, and it contains 112 discounted one-bedroom homes exclusively for first-time buyers. And that's right next to number 1 Croydon, Vanessa.
Thanks, Richard. Morning, everybody. Vanessa Clark, Sinclair Clark. I'll be talking you through the office market, and where better to start than with 1 Croydon, owned by Hermes. This is possibly the most iconic tower in Croydon. A treasure known as the Threepenny Bit or 50p building. It was actually designed by Richard Seifert and Partners. It completed in 1970. It's 24 stories high, around 269 feet, and comprises 170,000 square feet with unusually 170 allocated car spaces. They're like gold dust elsewhere. Space in the building at the moment, there's between 550,000 square feet available. Rental levels are around £29 to £31 per square foot, and typically the gym group, Sussex Innovation, Atkins, Collins, and many others occupy the building. And you know, at night time, if you're over there in the evenings at dusk, the building lights up every few minutes. It looks quite incredible by night. Moving on from 1 Croydon, just to one side of 1 Croydon, you can see the grey block in the far side of the picture here is Knollys and Stevenson House. And only last Friday, this combined building site, or two combined buildings of 194,000 square feet, was sold by UBS to Brunswick Real Estate. And this, I think, underpins how resilient Croydon is. A sale of 194,000 square feet in what is perceived as a slightly challenging office market is such tremendous news to a new buyer for Croydon, a new stakeholder. The sale went through at £36 million. It reflects a yield of about 10%. And that's a lot to do with the long leasehold interest. There's a freeholder in the background. And the buildings are no doubt poised for refurbishment. And again, these are multi-let buildings in a very good location adjoining East Croydon Station. Alongside Knollys and Stevenson, although we can't see on the picture at the moment, is Simpson House. a building which is part of the Freshwater Group portfolio, and we'll be talking about freshwater shortly, because they have a lot of activity in the town at the moment. Simpson House in January attracted DWP, who took 16,010 square feet, and that's for a training and skills use post-pandemic. That's currently being fitted out at the moment. Immediately opposite both Knollys and Stevenson and Simpson House is the Royal Mail site, which has now been bought by Network Rail, who are amalgamating sites around the East Croydon station to fit in with their really ambitious plans, which have excited everybody. They've also just recently bought the Porter and Sauter public house next door, so that will be becoming a combined development. This adjoins Cherry Orchard Road, Mentor residential scheme, which Richard's going to talk about.
The Mentor scheme effectively comprises 3 elements. Morello 1 had delivered 330 new homes and was completed by Mentor and Redrow. That is sort of to the right of the 2 big towers. The 2 big towers are part of Morello 2, which will deliver 445 new homes. And that will also include 107 new affordable homes, which effectively are the Cherry Orchard Gardens site. Now, this is on site. It's being constructed by McAlpines. There's 2, maybe actually 3 green cranes on site now. And you can see the cores are already up well over the height of the Porter and Sauter pub, which is quite a surprise when you come out of East Croydon Station. Most importantly, between the 2 towers, it will provide the area where the bridge across the platforms at East Croydon lands, and so it will link this side of the tracks right through to Ruskin Square and Lansdowne Road on the other side. Immediately adjacent to the Morello site is a site known as the Meat Packers site. It was a pork butcher specialist, and during the last year that we have sold that to Optivo, with Henley as the contractors, and construction will be getting underway there, and that's 120 units. Just quickly to East Croydon Station, Network Rail have received overwhelming support for their plans to unblock the bottleneck. So it's not just about new East Croydon Station, but it's about construction of train flyovers just to the north and replacement bridges along St James's Road. But it will result in a brand new gateway experience at East Croydon Station and extra public realm. Already, £4.4 million worth of improvements have been made and are underway to the transport interchange. And this has sort of transformed some of the space outside the station and provides better connections to George Street and Wellesley Road. Now back to Bonnie for a bit on Box Park.
Yeah, Box Park is obviously where we started the tour just now. You would have seen as Heather was speaking. It's the world famous pop-up mall marketplace, which was founded by Roger Wade, and the site in East Croydon opened in 2016, mirroring the first one in Shoreditch, but quite significantly bigger, with a large event space in the middle, and probably mostly famous for having appeared on the World Cup football coverage. There's 35 food and drink outlets, and it's been a huge success with residents and visitors. Obviously, the connectivity at East Croydon really helps, making that a real hub for Croydon's nighttime economy. Box Park have got the lease for quite a few more years. It was a 5-year deal extension recently, and they've also just been expanding into some new offers. So if you've been following the Develop Croydon newsletters, we're looking forward to a new axe throwing occupier, which is very fashionable and trendy, and we've already booked it for our Christmas party. So very excited about that. Also, just to say a bit more about some of the connectivity around the train station. Obviously, Richard touched on the station itself, but talking a bit more about the tram line, which, as Richard mentioned, is quite unique to Croydon. It's actually the only one in southern England, and the nearest one other than, further north is Birmingham. which is testament to Croydon always being a forward-looking part of the world. It was taken over by TfL in 2008, and the reliability and customer satisfaction of the line is pretty standout. Reliability is higher than 99%, and it has the highest customer satisfaction score of any TfL mode of transport. The trams link Croydon to Wimbledon and Beckenham Junction, with Beckenham Junction and taking you trains into Kent, and they've had quite a lot of recent investment. There's 35 trams on the line. There was a new platform at Wimbledon with 12 trams between Croydon and Wimbledon every hour, and there's a standard 7 to 8 minute frequency elsewhere. So it's a really great additional connectivity to Croydon, and obviously there's been discussions about extending that network further into Sutton and elsewhere, which obviously watch this space for more developments with the trams. And then behind Box Park and turning around, as I'm also the driver today, over to Richard to tell you a bit about the building behind us.
So this amazing building is on the site of 101 George Street, but it's now called 10 Degrees. It's been completed by the contractors Tide Construction. It's 546 build to rent homes. It's 44 stories high, the tallest modular building in the world at the moment. It was built by Tide using its off-site manufacturing system, and it just raced up over the Corona lockdown period, and as now forms a massive part of the Croydon skyline. The modular construction gave them a 60% time saving and 80% fewer vehicle movements, and it's been bought by Greystar and Henderson. I was very impressed the other day to notice that the monthly rents for one bed are 1,450, or from 1,450, and for a two bed from 1,850 odd. And I'm pleased to say that we've got 2 out of 3 of the commercial units at the base under offer now, so that really is complete. And they've started work on what will be the tallest modular tower in the world, because it will beat this one, a 49-storey tower, literally just behind this one, which will comprise 937 homes in London's largest co-living scheme, along with 120 shared ownership units. And now 102 George Street, Vanessa.
Thanks, Richard. We're focused obviously on East Croydon, and it's worth stating now that East Croydon is the prime part of the office market. The picture you see at the moment on screen is of the Allianz building. It's 102 George Street. It's owned by Springer Nicholas. Allianz remain in occupation, but from time to time poke their head up to look for some offices, because the most likely route for this building will be a sale. It has a consented planning consent for an erection of 3 buildings comprising 250 residential units and around 300 square meters of retail floor area. It's also noteworthy that it's on the edge of the Fairfield master plan. Moving on from 102, we're going to just drive down George Street a little way, and just beyond the modular tower is 96 George Street, which is the building, the building you can see, which says St Matthew's House actually. The image on the screen is an image of the proposed redevelopment of 96 George Street, and it's a adjoining building, St Matthew's House. This is owned by Freshwater alongside Suffolk House, which is next door. The planning application, which is in hand at the moment, is for 154,000 square feet of Grade A specified offices. The offices will be over 14 floors, and they will range around 14,000 square foot floor plates. A lot of work has gone into the design. Orms are the architects, and we're hoping that obviously by the summer, late summer, we'll have a consented scheme, and Freshwater will be looking to pre-let around 60% of the building, and then probably building out speculatively the remainder. So exciting times for that space. The adjoining building, I don't know whether we can see on our walk down George Street, is, there we have it, not the most beautiful building in the world. This is Suffolk House. It's 70,000 square feet of multi-let offices and ground floor retail. The offices have an incredible amount of churn. I think we did 14 deals in the last year alone in Suffolk House, and it's a budget building, and it's notably going to be phased to 96 George Street and St Matthew's House. I'm going to pause here for a moment just to give you a few stats on the office market. Croydon was, until a few years back when permitted development hit everywhere, probably the largest market outside of the central core of London, i.e. West End City and Canary Wharf. The scale of the office market at the moment is 5.5 million square feet. It's similar in scale to Hammersmith, to put it into context. It's had a checkered time over the last couple of years. 2019, where Brexit had a real grip on many markets, proved a bit of a downturn in terms of demand. And likewise, 2020, obviously with further uncertainty and the question marks over should people be going into offices, also hit the office market, which meant that those years were proved to be a very low take-up. However, there's always a silver lining, and underlying that, lease renewals have taken place over around 100,000 square foot a year, which shows the underpinning reliance of Croydon and the loyalty of Croydon occupiers. Alongside this, some big deals were announced, which have been alluded to so far. And at Ruskin Square, which we'll be talking about shortly, the Home Office agreed to take 330,000 square feet of offices. That's under construction, and those figures will fall into the statistics once the building is completed. In terms of pipeline supply, there is nothing under construction at the moment, and one major application in hand by Freshwater, as mentioned, for new office space. There's a real opportunity here for investors and developers to look at the town. In terms of clusters and the sort of sector growth in the town, it really is led by government. It's almost gone back to its roots with the development of Ruskin Square, which is fantastic news for Croydon. But it's also reliant on engineers, on insurance, financial services, pension services, and new growing trends of HEIs, with LSBU and Roehampton locating themselves within the town. In terms of values, Grade A stock is achieving £35 per square foot. There are higher quoting rents in the town, but those have yet to be achieved. Yields range from around 4.8% achieved to around 5.25% for Grade A spec. But it would be nice to see some new stock coming forward to increase the rental level and better the yields. Post lockdown, much as the whole scenario is very similar to other areas. Low occupancy rates at the moment. We're hoping that will lift over the coming weeks, and the market is really continuing to be led by structural events, lease renewals, breaks and expiries. Just in the moving on to more buildings and discussion, AMP House, which you can see just at the top of this picture, is owned by Schroders, who bought this around the time that they involved by buying Ruskin Square with Stanhope. AMP House is a multi-let building. Occupiers include Trinity, Quintessence, JJ Folio and WT Partnership, and it has a ground floor level of retail availability as well. Moving just to the right of that building, I don't know whether we can scoot the photo around, but brilliant, thanks Bonnie. The building you can see with scaffolding, which I think has come down now, is Renaissance. This was a development by Abstract Securities. It was built by Bowmer and Kirkland and partly financed by them. And this was a 2013 delivery. It was a speculative development of 100,000 square feet, which let very quickly. At the beginning of the letting programme, the investment was sold part vacant to M&G, who paid £36 million for it. More recently, the building has seen rental growth over a 5-year period from £23 now up to £34 per square foot on both lettings and rent reviews. And most recently, the investment was sold by M&G to Royal London, Arlam, for £59 million and achieved a yield of 4.8%. That's a remarkable uplift in a 5-year period, and again demonstrates how resilient Croydon can be, and that investing in Croydon is a very solid thing to do. Moving on, where we're now directly in front, or in between rather, Ruskin Square. This is the landmark development by Schroders Investment Management and Stanhope. It follows on other schemes in London, such as Chiswick Park. It's a fantastic model which Schroders and Stanhope deliver. The first building to have been built there was actually residential, which I'll touch on in a minute. And the first office building was to HMRC and comprised 140,000 square feet. I mentioned that the Home Office have reached agreement on 330,000 square feet of offices, and that now is under construction. On building 1, HMRC moved in 2017. There is placemaking and lots of activity on the actual site. The hub for the Home Office is likely to be delivered and ready in late 2024. The government took a 25-year lease, and they maintain that this will save the taxpayer £8 million a year. Obviously, this was a London relocation. Their hub will provide flexible workspace, allowing the lessons from working home over the recent months to be incorporated. The new hub in Croydon will be the area's second, creating a government campus, along with obviously earlier occupation by the government in Apollo and Luna, which we'll talk about shortly. Just looking at Caithness work on Vita, the work has completed on the first residential phase. 161 apartments have been delivered in partnership with Places for People. It's worth noting here East Croydon Bridge, which was opened in 2015. This provided amazing access to occupiers, residents in the West Croydon and North Croydon areas, and it provides rapid access into the platforms of East Croydon Station. As Richard alluded to earlier, the Mentor scheme will fulfil the bridge, opening it out onto Cherry Orchard Road, which has been long awaited. I'm going to hand over to Richard now to talk about Vista 24.
Yes, Vista 24 was basically the old job centre, and a JV by Telereal Trillium, Bellway, and most recently PA Housing, involves building 181 new homes across 2 towers, 9 stories and 24 stories, plus a flexible commercial space on the ground floor. And the first and second floors will include a new restaurant, cafe or bar. And this is immediately adjacent to what was Carolyn House, but is now 26 Dingwall Road. Formerly 100,000 square foot of offices, but it has been converted and extended. It went up by, I think, 3 or 4 stories at the top, into a 183 unit residential scheme. It's got some amazing communal space on the first floor. In fact, we had our last pre-pandemic Develop Croydon partner meeting in there. And it's truly excellent space. And all of those units are built to rent and managed by Go Native. And it's owned by LaSalle Investment. Immediately adjacent to that, to the right of number 26, is Corinthian House, which is a Mackay Securities owned building with a listed facade, and was designed by the same architect as number 1 Croydon, Richard Seifert. It's got 21,000 square foot available. There's a comprehensive refurbishment, which includes its quite amazing listed effectively porch or awning at the front, which is an amazing amount of concrete seemingly floating in midair. Mackay, a new partner of Develop Croydon, SHW are marketing the office space in there. Behind, I don't know whether we can look down number 1 towards number one. There we go. The site, this is number 1 Lansdowne Road, a site owned by Guildhouse Rose Pride. It includes Marco Polo House, Voyager House, a former YMCA hostel, an existing hotel and a gym, and a now very successful bar at the bottom. The planning consent involves 2 towers, 68 and 41 stories, linked by an 11-storey podium structure. And hopefully it will become an architectural centrepiece to Croydon. It was designed by world-renowned Piers Goff, CBE, of CZWG Architects. And we hope that number 1 Lansdowne will create a tourist destination to rival the Shard. The development will comprise 794 residential units, 35,000 square metres of premium office space, retail, a gym, a public viewing gallery offering panoramic views across the capital and Surrey. And now over to Vanessa for the Lansdowne building opposite.
Thanks, Richard. We're now on Lansdowne Road, and building you can see now is the Lansdowne building. You know, this is probably as economic and as iconic rather, but just in a different design to number 1. It's an amazingly spacious building, and I think post-pandemic, you know, certain areas such as the reception area, which is huge and airy, are actually are going to be really useful. This is a building that was always ahead of its time. It houses Goldman Sachs in 60,000 square feet of disaster recovery, as well as Regis. And on the 3rd floor, the owners, or asset managers rather, BlackRock, have refurbished the entirety of the 3rd floor. It's 13,000 square feet. And looking at where the marketplace is at the moment, BlackRock have decided to offer an inclusive rent, complete flexibility, short leases, and new furniture, with added new fibre to the building, without waylay agreements to make moving in really easy. Quoting rent on an inclusive basis is £40 per square foot. So hopefully that will start you know, moving well in as offices start opening up again. Moving along the road, we'll shortly be in front of this building, which is the Superdrug HQ. This was previously owned by M&G, who were the buyer of the Renaissance investment. At the time, it was occupied by Paraby Law. M&G relocated them into Renaissance, took this back to refurbish it, moved the entrance area from Bedford Park to its current location, and pre-let the 52,000 square feet to Superdrug, selling the investment shortly after it. The building is 52,000 square feet in total. This road houses a number of other buildings. The building you can see there is another Home Office building, the Metro building. Just across from the Metro building is the Mott MacDonald HQ. And this is probably, and also behind that actually is Sunley House. And this is an opportune time to hand over to John Edmondson and Phil Brown of ACOM, who are actually local occupiers in Sunley House and a DC partner, to give a short intro to ACOM and their presence in Croydon.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. It's just going to be myself talking today because Phil's got a bit of a cold, so I'm steering the whole thing. So thank you very much. My name is John Edmondson. I'm an associate director with ACOM, and together with my colleague Phil Brown, we run the Croydon MEP Building Services Engineering team. And it's nice to have this opportunity to say a little bit about us and what we're up to out of our Croydon office. In case anyone's not familiar with us, ACOM, we're a global design consultancy with a built environment, and our Croydon office in Sunley House on Bedford Park, just 5 minutes walk from East Croydon train station. So ACOM, we've been in Sunley House for over 10 years now, and we've got over 400 engineers based here. So we're a reasonable sized employer and occupier in the area. It's a terrific building to be inside, and it's now got the benefit of a really nice gym in the basement, and I'd recommend it to anyone. Traditionally, it's been the big infrastructure teams. So we I am designing HS2, Thames Tideway, London Power Tunnels and ports, etc. out of the building. alongside building specialists such as Jay McEwen's EIA team, who work alongside us, support clients establishing development opportunities. So a little bit about us, MEP, or Building Services. We set up in Croydon about 2 years ago, team of 6, and we've grown to team of 19, despite everything that has happened in 2020. Small team, flexible, agile, work across a range of sectors. For example, a year ago, we were carrying out feasibility studies, converting offices into COVID wards, and now we're also doing, at the other end of the spectrum, we're doing transport depot with conversion of their fleet into EV fleet, all being designed out of the Croydon office. So the kind of sectors that we are currently working and delivering, we do residential, commercial, new build, fit out, refurbishment. I'm currently sitting on site at the moment in a heritage refurbishment of an office that we're doing. Healthcare, education, higher education, military. We work on critical infrastructure, and we do a lot of work for local authorities. As a wider team, we have got previous in Croydon. We designed the MEP Wadden Leisure Centre, HMRC Ruskin Square. We did the fit out on that, and the Croydon Council offices. So to summarise, we're delighted to be here in Croydon. I feel there's a tremendous opportunity and potential here, which clearly comes across in what Bonnie, Richard, and Vanessa have been saying. And clearly we're a growing team. We're actively recruiting our team, and we're looking for support local clients and developers in the area. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Great introduction, and really nice to hear from some of our partners on the tour. Obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning, we normally stop in at offices and get wonderful hosting from some of our partners. So in the meantime, it's really good to have a few different voices come in and share their views about Croydon, and particularly about being based here. At this point on the tour, we normally take a short coach ride out to the Purley Way. Heather obviously mentioned that's a big focus area for Croydon at the moment. And the council are currently undertaking a new chapter of their local plan, the Purley Way Master Plan exercise, to look at opportunities for development along the Purley Way area. And to tell us a bit more about some of the schemes that are underway, the industrial and logistics sector that's based there, and everything else Purley Way, I'd like to hand over to Alex Gale, who is commonly known as the King of the Purley Way, but is also a partner at SHW, to tell you a bit about the industrial market in Croydon. So over to you, Alex.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. What an introduction. Yeah, basically I live and breathe industrial. That's my main stance in life, and I have seen Purley Way change no end over the years, but it's really come to a fore recently with regards to the industrial sector. So Croydon itself has circa about 6 million square feet of industrial in the actual London borough. There are 3 main roads which it's sort of surrounded by. So Purley Way, Beddington Road, and Beddington Lane. The industrial sector actually used to front Purley Way before there were strategic changes with the likes of out-of-town retail, which came to Purley Way quite early on. That pushed the industrial back behind Purley Way into the likes of Beddington Farm Road and Beddington Lane in particular. And we have the London Borough of Sutton, which sort of runs through the Beddington Lane area. So there's a lot of interlinking between Croydon and Sutton. And up until quite recently, we've really not seen much development, if at all. So we went from 2008 up until about 2018-19 before we saw any speculative development in the area. So most of the main areas of or main business parks are owned by all the big funds that are likes of Aviva, Hermes, all the pension companies. Plus there are some new entrants on the blocks like Capital Industrial, who have been hoovering up industrial estates around the M25 for their main fund, which is backed by the American pension funds. Just taking on a little trip round, Bonnie, if you can speed on to the next one after IKEA. So IKEA was built many moons ago, but it was the old power station before it got redeveloped for obviously big IKEA centre. But one of the other interesting locations to look at is what's happening on the retail side of things. Obviously, we've seen the likes of Toys R Us go to the wall, but it's been reinvented on the Purley Way. It's literally located just off the back of PC World, if you know it well. It is now an Amazon distribution depot, which along with Macro has seen, which is also going to an Amazon distribution depot and being redeveloped as we speak. We can see the changes which are actually happening in the retail world and the crossover between the quasi-retail likes of Amazon and the actual retail which is happening. So can you push it on to the next one? Can you pass it on to Affinity, Bonnie? Just want to talk about the Affinity scheme. So this was a 2-unit scheme of circa about 23,000 square feet each. This is on Beddington Lane and was actually the location of the former Superdrug headquarter office building. It was owned by Aberdeen Standard Life and was redeveloped in sort of 2018, 2019. And both units have now been let, one to Peloton for all those cycling fans, and the other one to Hermes, the delivery company. So Croydon in particular is seen as a great last mile logistics location because the sheer number of people who live in a very short distance away. So we've seen quite a few of the likes of Amazons and Argos and Fruitful Office all relocate to the area so they can service their clientele very, very quickly. So rents on this new build, which was the first new build for 10 years, was £16.50 a foot on a gross external basis, which works out about £17.15 on a gross internal basis. So following on from Affinity X, we've now got the Prologis scheme, which was situated on about 10 acres of Thames waterland, at the top end of Beddington Lane and close to the Beddington Lane tram stop. They are very close to completing 220,000 square feet of speculative development. I believe they're quoting anything between 1650 and 1725 a square foot on a gross external basis. They're due to complete in the next couple of months, and there are already 2 units which are under offer. It's a great scheme, and it's got 10-metre eaves, it's got electric car charging points, it's got photovoltaic cells on the roof. So it's certainly the industrial sector is moving towards being far more green than it ever has been in the past. Just also worth mentioning in terms of rents as a whole in Croydon, we've seen rents almost double over the last 5 years. We have a new high of £24 a square foot at Progress Business Park for a small unit of circa about 1,000 square feet, which is probably rivaling some of the old office rent now. But demand is still holding up as the move to online deliveries and online businesses continues to grow. In terms of other developments, there are a few others which are now being mooted, one of which is the old Stewart's plastic site. And if you've driven past there recently, you'll notice that this building no longer exists. It's also owned by Aberdeen Standard Life. They are intending to build a road through the middle of it to their retail park at the back, but at the same time build 8 new industrial units either side of the road. The development is due to start imminently, will probably take circa 8 months to build, but the key for Aberdeen Standard is to get that extra road through to the back of the site in their retail park. There's one other scheme which is due to come out in the next few years as well, and that's the old Cena site down at the southern end of Purley Way, south of Five Ways. It's about 3.4 acres, and it was sold recently with a short sale and lease back to a fund which has been put together by Patrizia in conjunction with Kingston Space Property. They're proposing a couple of units up to 110,000 square feet. So that should be ready in probably 2.5, 3 years time, depending on when Cena vacate the site. So we're finally seeing some good new development come to Croydon, which is much needed. I think in terms of the colonnades, I'm not a retail expert, but in terms of colonnades, just touching on that very briefly, that was bought in 2019, I believe, by the council for their pension fund. And I'll pass back to Vanessa, I think, is next.
Thanks, Alex. I love industrial, not quite up to office rents, but not far off, eh? Right, the building you can see on your screen at the moment is called Interchange. It's adjacent to West Croydon Station, which obviously has the Orange Line feeding into East London via the Overground. This building was originally occupied by BT, who at the time occupied it in 3 vertical blocks. BT vacated, the building was sold a couple of times and eventually bought by Tristan Capital Partners following a major refurbishment by Carvel. They paid £71 million in 2017. The block is 184,000 square feet of offices. It's multi-let now. It has floors of just over 19,000 square feet, and the most remarkable 9-floor car park, which has over 450 parking spaces. And I've actually walked those and counted them, sadly. Tenants include Siemens, Clarion Housing, EDF and Selection Services. Regis also have space in there. Rental levels rose from mid-20s up to the early 30s, and at the moment there's just 1 floor available. Immediately just around the corner from Interchange, I'm going to hand over to Richard to talk about St Michael's Square.
Thanks very much. St Michael's Square is my personal favourite lockdown deal of last year. Planning was granted back in July 2015 for these 2 towers, but we managed to complete the sale to London Square in March 2021. The 2 towers are 25 and 21 stories, and the original consent is 232 units with 947 square metres of commercial space. It was designed to enhance the view of the church and a listed facade, which was a former cinema. Now, Darren became my best friend during lockdown. Spoke to him nearly every day for months and months and months.
2 o'clock.
Darren to tell you how they've amended and improved the consent, and how Clarion are taking one of the towers, which obviously they had to because it's right outside the window of their office in Interchange. Darren, over to you.
Afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much. It's really good to see the number of people that are on as well. So I'm Darren Layton. I'm Partnership Director at London Square. We're a house builder that was founded 11 years ago. We were due to celebrate our 10th anniversary on the 1st of April last year, and someone decided that lockdown should get in the way of our celebrations. But we're going to find another way of doing that, and maybe West Croydon will be part of it. So we're a house builder with a number of different divisions that support everything that we try and bring to the table when it comes to development of high quality projects and housing. Our pipeline secured at the moment sits at 3,500 homes, and we have under contract and driving to exchange another 3,000 in that pipeline. So we're in a real growth at the moment, and I think it's fair to say that where we were all nervous at the beginning of lockdown last year, that we've been really encouraged with the government support and the way that the market has actually held up for housing generally. We operate across London and the South East, although West Croydon is our first foray into Croydon as a developer. I, in my time with Durkin, had done 3 schemes in Croydon, was well aware of what it has to offer and really encouraged by how the teams work. And I've said that once before. In terms of London Square, so we've got our house builder part of the business. We have London Square Works, which deals with our non-residential space, and I'll come on and talk about that in a second. We're about to launch our build to rent division, supported also by an announcement 3 months ago of Square Roots, which is an affordable housing provider, for profit affordable housing provider, so that we have an in-house solution for absolutely every aspect of a scheme. And of course, then there's my division, which is partnerships, and that's where West Croydon comes in. I think Richard marks this, if you didn't say it before, Richard, as the deal that was done at MIPIM. It's always nice to come away from an international event and come back to Croydon to do your deal as well. A very complex deal, which involved securing not only the freehold land itself, but also a long lease where the piazza sits, which was leased from St Michael's Church and had to go through all the various approvals. So a very difficult deal to do, but more importantly, it was our way of stepping into Croydon, a borough that I genuinely believe in, and get a partnership going with Clarion. So we'd heard that Clarion had moved one of their offices, key offices, to Croydon, found out it was just behind the site that we were in the middle of acquiring, and introduced an opportunity that they stepped into. So we have 2 towers. We're going to be delivering 240 new homes. And I think one of the most important things with this is that we've taken a scheme that was granted a planning consent with 17% affordable, and through our partnership with Clarion are increasing that to over 50% affordable housing across the scheme. Of course, the scheme isn't just about the housing. We've got just under 10,000 square feet of non-residential space, which is now the new Class E. And the key aspect to it, of course, as Richard alluded to, we recognise the importance of the piazza and this development to, as Croydon Council did, to open up the new vista, which was previously obstructed, going through to St Michael's Square, to St Michael's Church, to create a new route from West Croydon that links much better to West Croydon, where the new shopping mall will be eventually one day, we're all sure. And of course, I suppose more importantly, it's something we all recognise as a catalyst to the investing potential of West Croydon as an area, having seen so much happen in East Croydon. And as it happens, none of this would have happened without the support from the council itself. We revised the planning to ensure that we could introduce the affordable housing. We went from 232 to 240 units with a change in the mix. We had to address the uses at ground floor. It was really important to get the council support for Section 203. When it comes down to it, for all the hardships and all the difficulties that Croydon have been through, they were a huge support for us. We completed a couple of months ago and are now really pleased to see the demolition having started. We're on site and progressing a scheme that's going to be really exciting. As happy as we are to be in Croydon and delighted to be involved in West Croydon, we are also looking for more, and we want to get back involved in other parts of the borough as well. It's a really exciting borough and really dynamic in terms of development. Thanks very much.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Darren. I think we are just going to have a look now at Saffron Square, hopefully, which in many ways is what I sort of call, it's the beginning really of where it all started. Obviously, they were a founder member of Develop Croydon, but Saffron Square as Barclay Homes, mixed-use development. It's a 43-storey tower, which at the time was the tallest building in Croydon, but is now going to be is now overtaken. And it's got a public space in the middle. At the bottom, you've got Tesco's, you've got cafes, you've got restaurants, you've got a gym, offices. It's 791 residential units, from one beds to penthouses. And indeed, at the very top, one of the penthouses brought a 2-bedroom flat underneath and put a spiral staircase through that. But the most important thing about it is that during the course of construction, residential values started at £350 a square foot and went up through £650 a square foot. So this development saw the massive step change in resi values in Croydon that enables the rest of the developments to come forward. Well, that's Delta Point. Delta Point, for a time, was the largest PD scheme in the country, but I think that has been surpassed now. It's one of Criterion's 5 schemes in Croydon. It's 367,000 square feet, and I think it was about 441 units. And the building previously featured as Gotham Hospital in one of the Batman films. And I think I'm going to hand back to you, Vanessa, briefly there.
Okay, Richard, thank you. We're just running along Wellesley Road at the moment, and we are going to be looking at 9 to 11 Wellesley Road, a Meridian House, which is across the way. We're just obviously the jury's in over there, and Whitgift, which is on the right as we're just coming across. There are 2 buildings owned by the Linton Group, which adjoin the Whitgift Centre, 9 to 11 Wellesley Road, and Meridian House. Meridian was occupied, what HSBC were in occupation of their building there. They've relocated. So there is around 40,000 square feet available on the market. And again, we can just see juries in across the road there. Bonnie, I think you're going to talk about Whitgift.
Yeah, so as we're coming down Wellesley Road, the Whitgift Centre, which I'm sure many people will be familiar with, is the large shopping centre on our right-hand side. Obviously not the best view of it, but much more stunning when you get inside. It's a large shopping centre and office development in the centre of Croydon that was opened in stages between 1968 and 1970. And it comprises 1,300,000 square feet of retail space with over 140 outlets. It was actually the largest covered shopping development in Greater London until the opening of Westfield in White City in 2008, and obviously has been the subject of speculation about the new development that's coming forward, that Westfield and Hammerson will be jointly bringing forward the Whitgift Centre and Central Shopping Centre. That scheme is set to be a 1.4 billion scheme that will transform the town centre. Obviously, Westfield was bought by Unibel Redempco at the end of 2017, and obviously it's been quite a difficult period of time for the retail sector, and the impact of the pandemic has obviously further delayed that site. But Westfield and the joint owners have been reviewing their plans and revisiting them to design a scheme that's fit for purpose in the current time, which I think in a way is a silver lining, that we'll end up with a scheme in the town centre that is relevant and potentially has more of a focus on a leisure use, which will have been sort of spearheaded by some of the meanwhile space that's been brought forward by Hammerson in Central over the summer. So if you've been again following the news, Central have just announced that their new space called Flip Out will be opening as part of a 30,000 square foot adventure park in their shopping centre over this summer. It'll include a bumper car track, a glow-in-the-dark ice rink, mini golf, and a giant assault course. So lots of fun, different things going on in the meantime, and watch this space for further announcements about that development in the future. I'm going to hand back to Vanessa to say a bit about Apollo and Luna before we then come on to the electric house scheme.
Thanks, Bonnie. Apollo and Luna famously house the Home Office. Those buildings feature on so many TV programmes. The 2-building site and occupation is owned by Hobie. Prior to Hobie buying Apollo and Luna and going back into a bit of a checkered history, this 450,000 square foot complex was actually owned by an individual called Achilles Kalakis, and at the time he had very ambitious plans to create this into a 1 million square foot campus. I'm not sure at the time he'd been thinking of retention for government, but if you move to today, 450,000 square feet, passing rent is £12.50 a foot, and a reducing lease situation, it may well be that here is an incredible opportunity to look at a campus situation, perhaps with more government, but perhaps just in improving and increasing what is in sight. But it is definitely a key opportunity two buildings who are very loved in the local area, actually, as well, by the planners, I think, and Croydon Council. If we cross the road again, I'm going to hand back to Richard to touch base on Electric House.
Yeah, here's Electric House. This is a Grade 2 listed building owned by Starview Estates. And they were, in 2016, going to do a comprehensive refurbishment and convert it into flats. However, in 2020, in the middle of lockdown, my office agency colleague Holly agreed a lease with London South Bank University, and now I think we're going to hear a little bit from Richard Fenn, who is going to tell us about the progress of the works and how they're going to create their new campus.
Thank you, Richard, and thanks for your time today. I think I just want to start off by saying thank you really to colleagues in SHW, particularly Holly, but also colleagues in Croydon Council, particularly the Planning and the Economic Development Office. How do you take a Grade 2 listed building and turn it around and refurbish it in about 8 months and then deliver for nursing courses from this September onwards? While that sounds like it should be really, really challenging, everybody working together has made it kind of particularly easy, really. So thank you to you. The broader ambition for the campus itself, I've been tasked with creating a vibrant hub for South London education, breaking down educational boundaries and creating learning and career pathways, and focusing on student outcomes and success. The ambition for the campus is to meet Croydon's need for an exceptional civic university to power the future workforce, to build sustainable and engaged communications, and boost the region's standing on both the national and global stage. We've already started work. So far, we've put in one bid for a European Social Fund and been awarded 300,000 to work with local companies, particularly in the creative industries. And we had a starting meeting for that last week. We're working with the existing providers in the area, particularly Croydon College, and I'd like to pass thanks on to those as well, to submit a digital skills bootcamp bid to bring in an additional £3 million of funding to help reskill and retrain the local population. Recently, we're also putting out, next week, we're due to put in another bid for our higher learning skills, and again, another 2.5 million to deliver education to the local population. The ambition for the campus itself is in 3 to 5 years to have around 2,000 undergraduate students and 500 postgraduate students working on a variety of programs across the 7 schools that the university currently delivers on. Primarily, we'll be delivering on our nursing courses. So we expect to be delivering around about 600 graduate students every year across mental health and adult nursing, while at the same time running an integrated chiropractic masters and delivering a service to the local population. On top of that, we'll have a range of accounting and finance and business management programs. And I'll certainly be linking in with the colleagues that I've spoken to, that have spoken here today, to look at opportunities for placements and how our students and how our academics can help support the wider Croydon ecosystem. I think it's an exciting time for the university to come down to Croydon, and I think we're hoping to meet a currently kind of unmet local need for a civic university to help power your future workforce. I think what I'd end with is a call to the people that are here today, and a call to people that are viewing, to kind of get in touch and see how the university can help you deliver on the government strategy for lifelong skills in the area. And in particular, for you to be aware that our university is one of the largest providers of apprenticeships in the country. So we do technical and vocational skills training to an exceptional level. I'd also like to point out that working with SHW, we're currently looking at another location for our resource centre, our Resource and Innovation Centre, which will bring down the School of Engineering for Croydon as well, with the aim of developing additional opportunities for the curriculum, with a primary focus on green skills and green regeneration. Richard, is that okay?
That's absolutely perfect, Richard. Absolutely brilliant, and it's very exciting to see it all being tidied up and back to its former glory. I mean, it's an amazing building. They're amazing materials as well, all the marble and everything. Absolutely lovely. Opposite, there's a couple of things that have gone on. What was St Anne's House, which is slightly to the left of that picture. There it is on the left, just shaded by the tree a bit. That was St Anne's House and has become the Quarters, which it has basically been converted into 151 high specification studios that are all available for on a rental basis. Adjacent to it, there's a sort of gap there. Now, actually, today there isn't. There's a building that was Cambridge House. We sold it to Notting Hill. They're building a 27-storey, 90-flat scheme, and currently I'd say it's up to about 8 or 9 stories in that gap there. And that's another one that's come online during the lockdown period. And this is Norfolk House, Vanessa.
Thanks, Richard. So the building in front is Norfolk House. This is a mixed-use scheme. It has offices, retail, and it's owned by Kennedy Wilson. It's around 40,000 square foot of offices. The retail, if you go around the corner, there's a Waitrose, but a whole range of retailers in there, and they've managed to keep, I think, most of them occupied, which is extraordinary. It's very low rise, and there's no doubt at some point in the future there is an opportunity here. Alongside this, if we were to go further up George Street, immediately behind, you can see the grey building on the left. This is Southern House. This is government owned. It's TfL. It's got amazingly long linear office floors. There's a huge marketing campaign at the moment to let vacant space in the building. There was some discussion about this going for redevelopment. I'm not quite sure what the status of that is at the moment, but it's perfectly located in East Croydon, and it filling up with government occupiers. Bonnie, over to you on the former Barclays.
Yeah, just as we go past this sort of retail outlets on the ground floor, just some recent news again that the former Barclays unit is set to become the new Wendy's restaurant, which is their first in London. So another recent announcement of new occupiers moving into the town centre. And as we go around some of the more nighttime economy focused space in a second, we'll tell you a bit more about a few of the other leisure opportunities that have been thriving in Croydon over the past couple of years. Obviously slightly less in the recent months, but looking forward to them reopening in the next few days. So as we move down Worsley Road, we next come past Croydon College, which has been mentioned a couple of times. Just to give a short overview on that, there's over 8,000 students each year at Croydon College, and it's one of the largest and most successful providers of further and higher education courses in the South East. It recently announced a new partnership from 2021 with the University of Southampton, which includes a BSc adult nursing degree and a new state-of-the-art nursing suite. So really great to have that based in the town centre, and obviously adds to the higher education offer that Croydon now is developing. The college is on a green which is aptly named College Green, which is next to Fairfield Halls and part of the Fairfield Master Plan. Council and developer Brick by Brick scheme was approved at the first virtual planning committee last year for 421 homes, which you can see at the end of this walkway. It will include shops, open public space, and improved town centre pedestrian access on the site of the demolished multi-storey car park, which you could have seen in the previous view. And there's obviously rumours and speculations about purchasing options for that site, which you can view in the press currently. I think the most recent update came out in the last couple of days. Turning around to the other side of the road, we then have Queen Square, which again Heather mentioned. Queen Square is being led by R&F Properties, who are one of the largest real estate developers in China. They're listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange and are the world's largest owner of luxury 4- and 5-star hotels. And fun fact, they have their own football team. Queen Square is the name used for the area of land that surrounds St George's Walk, which is a walkway through the middle of that development underneath the Nestle Tower. And R&F purchased the site in 2017. Phase 1 of the development, which is the conversion and extension of St George's House, the former Nestle Tower, into 290 flats, which will be renamed Highgrove Tower, is on site, and Ardmore are delivering the £100 million first phase. Queen Square Phase 2, which we can show you a couple of visuals of on the screen now, It involves the redevelopment of most of the site into a new town square opposite the town hall. This is Highgrove Tower, and then we'll come on to the other views. It'll involve restaurants, offices, galleries, other workspace and makerspace on the ground floor with new homes above. Croydon Council granted permission for the demolition works in September 2018 to allow for the construction of phase 2 to begin as quickly as possible, and those works were completed in September 2019. And the emerging scheme for phase 2 is currently being discussed with the council and wider stakeholders before a formal planning application is submitted. So very excited to see that one come forward, and hopefully we can update you further on that in our next tour. Just next door to College Green, as I mentioned, is Fairfield Halls. The council's refurbishment of the halls is complete, and it's the first phase of development for a new cultural quarter in the town centre. It was funded by development value of surrounding land alongside contributions from Coast Capital, the LEP, and the Mayor of London's Creative Enterprise Zone scheme. And the award-winning project was delivered by Brick, who led a multidisciplinary project team, including Mica Architects and Gleeds. Dame Judi Dench actually rededicated the Ashcroft Playhouse inside the halls to her friend and Croydon-born fellow actress Dame Peggy Ashcroft at the reopening of the venue, which was formally opened by Sadiq Khan. Though, of course, the halls have been closed for a few months, we, apart from some interim community use, we're looking forward to them reopening as we emerge from lockdown, and we hope to see the return of, obviously, important things like the Panto and the Develop Croydon Conference later this year. The new public realm scheme next to the halls that will take up this space here is a £10 million scheme and will provide the perfect setting for the revamped venue, including tying in with the landscaping of Queen's Gardens, and there'll be a new walkway between, as Vanessa mentioned earlier, the Tide project, East Croydon Station and Fairfield Hall, so a new way to move around the town centre. Just as we're pausing here, I think we'll come back to Queen's Gardens, won't we, Richard? So we will move down Catherine Street and just show you some of the nighttime economy offers in Croydon and some of Croydon's heritage as well. So we are going past Seeger's House on our right hand side, which is an Art Deco building, Nouveau building, which is part of the RNF development and is actually built on the modern style, and it's going to be part of the wider RNF development and potentially earmarked to be a gallery space or similar. And it will also be the RNF marketing suite when they commence on phase 2. As we move down Catherine Street, we'll go past the Clock Tower, which is a 19th century town hall and houses the library, the David Lean Cinema, with a regular programme of art house and independent films, which celebrated its 25th anniversary in March last year. The Croydon Museum and the Braithwaite Hall, which is home to the Croydon Beer Festival. Next door to that, another great leisure opportunity and also a small theatre space is homed in the Spread Eagle pub. There's a 50 theatre-seater upstairs for fringe events, comedy, theatre and live sports. And yeah, that's a great place to spend time in the town centre. We're whistling through because I'm very conscious of time. So we're driving very quickly and probably on the wrong side of the road. So we are next turning into the High Street. Here we have a few great examples of the street art that's been put up around Croydon as part of the Croydon Mural Project. If you have some time to spend walking around the town centre, I'd absolutely recommend walking around some of these roads, as we've got internationally renowned street artists that have come and showcased their artwork on the sides of many of our town centre buildings, which was a project led by a gallery that was based in St George's Walk, and yeah, it was a really great publicity and perception changing opportunity for the town centre. We also have some other new occupiers here. Five Guys moved into Croydon a year or so ago, which is a great addition, showing confidence in the town centre. And we also opposite that have Grant's Entertainment Centre with a view cinema and 9 escape rooms, which we're looking forward to visiting again soon. What you can see just looking down the high street here is moving on to North End, which is sort of the traditional high street space in Croydon that links the 2 shopping centres. But on the right hand side, as you come into that space, we also have the Almshouses, which is a fantastic heritage building that we like to take people into as part of the investor tours traditionally. It always has quite a wow factor that something so historic is based right in the middle of such a bustling high street and a sort of modern town centre. Just to give you a bit of the history of that, Archbishop John Whitgift historically spent quite a lot of time in Croydon, and he received permission from Elizabeth I to build a hospital and school in Croydon, and laid the first stone for the almshouses in March 1596. And that's all part of the Whitgift Foundation charity, which does amazing work across Croydon. Owns the 3 foundation schools, Old Palace, Trinity and Whitgift, which are all very well recognised, and they have a fantastic bursary scheme as part of that, which is contributed to by their property ownership. So really, another Develop Croydon partner and a really nice different angle of a story of Croydon. Just to show you a couple of the other sort of up and coming areas of Croydon. Just further down the high street, this is Surrey Street. It's a historic market street that dates back to the 13th century or potentially earlier. Records vary. And there's again some fantastic street art on this space, and it's become quite a hub of bars and restaurants and a sort of go-to area for the nighttime economy. There's restaurants and cocktail bars, including Mr. Fox Art and Craft, the Dog and Ball, which has a fantastic beer garden, and Art and Craft also have Prosecco on tap, so a great place to spend some time. And it's also home to a couple of new developments, so I'll hand over to Richard to say a bit about Beanhouse Yard.
Yes, just on the that was being demolished. Regent Land have bought a scheme there, which is 60 units, and it's being brought forward by PA Housing. And then there's some commercial units on the ground floor and lower ground, this is level change there, that will have restaurant, cafe, bar type operations. And that's well underway now, has a nice little blue crane, and they're busy pouring all the concrete into the basement structures.
Brilliant. Just behind Surrey Street, a couple of other leisure exciting points for Croydon. We've got Ludicrous, which is the board game cafe that has over 1,000 board games. And as we move down the street, there's some excellent coffee shops. There's the Tomorrow Tech Hub, which offers co-working space and was supported by GLA funding, and is really stunning inside and definitely worth having a look inside. There's also a couple of permitted development schemes, one of them at Green Dragon House, which was previously the Black Sheep Bar and was reportedly where dubstep was invented, so another angle of Croydon's heritage. As we move down this end, we're moving towards Southend, which is known as the Restaurant Quarter. There's a couple of other exciting things down there, such as Fun House, which is a big ball pit bar, and the food fest, the Croydon Food Festival is hosted at the end of this street in the Restaurant Quarter, which we are looking forward to the return of potentially this year or next year. Watch this space. And Vanessa's just going to say a bit about this blue building on the left-hand side.
Thanks, Bonnie. So just as we approach on the flyover, the glazed building you can see in the distance is Bernard Wetherall House. It's owned alongside Davis House next door, which includes the Tomorrow unit, which Bonnie mentioned. And Bernard Wetherall is a 240,000 square foot Grade A building, which replaced the council's former HQ, Taberner House, which is now rapidly nearing its completion for residential. The Bernard Wetherall is a stepped building. You can see just, in fact, you can't see it from this picture, it's a shame, but it steps back over a number of floors. So there is a huge flexibility of floor plates, and it houses both public access teams as well as a private sector planning and all the teams that go alongside a council. It was delivered at the time as part of the urban regeneration vehicle with John Lang. Davis House was bought to facilitate the delivery of Bernard Wetherall House itself. The council staff moved in 2014. And we're just approaching, well, you can see just there Queen's Gardens. I'm going to hand back to Richard to talk about 69 Park Lane.
Yeah, just on Queen's Gardens, this has provided the amusement during lockdown, looking out of the office window. Hub have been bringing forward 514 units. There's a whole mix with L&G, L&Q, and shared ownership, build to rent, and normal affordable housing. And that has all gone on during lockdown. Queen's Gardens now, it's just the hoardings have just recently gone up, and I can see over the top from the office that is all underway. You can see all the paths and what have you are now in there, and the planting's beginning. So that should shortly open up. And that's my office there, which was covered in scaffolding for most of the Corona period, but that's all gone now. And we have a nicely refurbished office at 69 Park Lane, owned by CEG. The main anchor tenant isn't SHW, unfortunately. It's LV in 4 floors below us. And thanks very much. I guess that's me dropped off back at the office then, is it, Bonnie?
Yeah, absolutely. Apologies that we've gone slightly over time. I don't know if Vanessa, you wanted to add anything as we finish. Thank you, audience, for bearing with us.
No, thanks for listening. I'm Sinclair Clark, a niche advisor on a number of projects in Croydon. The one thing I would stress is that I fully believe that Croydon is very well placed to move forward post-pandemic. It's a very safe haven for occupiers coming out of central London. It has a wealth of space and huge variance across that space at all levels of budget, and huge amenities to support it alongside the massive infrastructure. Do come and talk to any of us on the team if you'd like more information. Always happy to speak to people looking at Croydon. Thanks, Bonnie.
And I think hopefully the next one, the 20th, we'll be back doing this live properly, because I do think this is all very good, but nothing replaces coming to Croydon and seeing what's actually happened. I'm here every day, and it amazes me every time I go around a corner and see something new has appeared. So I really look forward to welcoming people back in reality on the next one, which would be, I guess, in September, wouldn't it, Bonnie?
Yeah, exactly. Watch this space, and definitely we'll be in touch with everybody if people would like to come on a physical tour. Obviously, I'm sure there's people from our team and the council that would also be happy to do personal show rounds or meet people for tell them a bit more about Croydon if they're interested. Just very quickly to tell you a couple of other things that you might be interested in. We've been running the Croydon tour, as you'll have obviously seen, for 19 tours over the past 8 or so years. But we're actually doing a new investor tour of Purley. Following Councillor Ali's mentioned, the district centres are already a key part of Croydon, so we wanted to showcase a bit more of what's going on there. And the Purley investor tour is taking place as part of Real Estate Live UK in June. So please get in touch if you'd like to join that and have a look at what's going on in Purley. We also have the Develop Croydon conference that I mentioned. That is in November. Hopefully we'll be back at Fairfield Halls, and we'd love to see you all there too. And yeah, many thanks for joining us today, sticking with us for the extra 8 minutes. We have tried to cut this down, but there is so much to say about what's going on in Croydon, we really struggle. If you'd like more information about any of the schemes, if you'd like to get in touch about joining Develop Croydon and some of the events that we run, let us know. And please let us know if you have any feedback about today's event. And we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.